So this is Arizona. He's part of Trust Ranch Rescue. He's a 7-year-old Arabian gelding. I've been working with him little bits at a time. We're just establishing trust. When he first came into the rescue, he was brought in malnourished. He was in the desert and very underweight. And very overexcitable and very food aggressive. I had to let him sit and be a horse for about a month to learn that he was going to get fed and he could trust his environment that he was in. And after that, the food aggression started subsiding and I could start working with him without the anxiety and the fear. He's become very trusting just with minimal groundwork. He's going to be a great horse for somebody. I'd like to see him go to a person who wants to trail ride, maybe do some endurance, that kind of thing. But he would really be a great horse. He's green, so he does need somebody who knows what they're doing. But I think he's a very willing horse and ready to do a job. So what I do with him is just some groundwork to make sure he's focusing on me. Right now he's kind of looking off and he's not really paying attention. So I'm going to make a few moves that tell me if he's listening to me or not. So that was real nice. A nice soft ask. He likes to come in and check in with me a lot, and that's just his insecurity. So he needs to move off without coming straight into me. But I'll give him some reassurance so he knows he's okay. After I know he's focusing on my ask, meaning I can ask with the slightest cue and he moves, then I'll bring him in and have him stand and start working the rope around his body. I don't like to lunge horses. Lunging exercises the lungs, and I want to exercise his mind. Oh, good boy. Good boy. Another big thing, I make sure that I give him time to absorb what we're working on. I don't rush into the next movement and let him just kind of be still and be. So now I'll work with him at a standstill. I like to give the horse the rope. They can leave if they want, but I like them to choose to stay with me because they want to be with me. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring him in and I'm going to go over his face. And I'm going to ask that he lets me touch inside the mouth. It doesn't have to be a long time. Over the eyes, in the nose, and in the ears. And just real light. If he has a problem area, I'm not going to force it. I'm just going to kind of lightly go over it. Like he has a little bit of a hard time with the mouth. And I think somebody tried putting a bit in his mouth and didn't give him the opportunity to really learn that it was okay. That's my feeling on the mouth for him. Once I know he's okay with that, I do it on both sides. Everything gets done on the left and the right. That makes a good, solid, balanced horse. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. Then I'm going to ask him to yield to pressure at the pole. I'm going to ask him to come down. If a horse gets anxious or excitable, I can always come back to this position, asking for the head down. That causes the mind to shift to the different side of the brain where they relax. Good boy. I can do this in the saddle as well. Everything that I'm doing on the ground translates to the saddle. So if I want to stop on a trail ride because my horse is worried, I can ask him for the head down cue to bring his mind back around to me. And then next I'm going to ask him to flex. So I'm going to stand where I would in the saddle. Again, everything translates to my saddle. And I'm going to ask him to flex. Good boy. The minute he yields to that slight pressure, like it would be on a rein, he's playful. I give him back. So again, I'm going to stand here where I would in the saddle. I'm going to ask with a slight amount of pressure. I'm not asking him to move his legs, so I'm just going to hold this. And oh, good boy. And I'm going to do it again so he knows there's a target right here. Good boy. Good job, bud. All right. Good job, bud. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the rope to go around his body parts. I want to make sure my horse is good. I want to find holes. If they have holes on the ground, I want to make sure those are okay before I get up in the saddle. So I do everything rhythmically, so the horse knows that I'm predictable. And this isn't hurting him, it's just coming around. And I make sure I go over all the zones of the horse. If I were to be on the trail and I got caught up in some vines or something like that, I wouldn't want it to panic my horse. And this is where I would find that hole. Good boy, good boy. Oh. So he's stepping into my space, and that just tells me he's a little bit insecure there. So I'm gonna ask him to step right back. Good boy. And I'm gonna bring his head down again, because I can use this move at any time. Good boy, yeah. And I'm gonna let him absorb. So I could have moved right into this side doing the rope work, but I'm gonna give him a second here to think about what we're doing. Horses need time. And we also need to be reading this horse's body language. If he's uncomfortable here, or it's too much for him to handle, I'm gonna recognize that, and I'll always move to something that the horse knows and does really well. I always want something positive to come out of a training session. So he's pretty good with this. He could not have handled this when I first got him. It would have been way too much for him. But he knows. He's been with me for 3 months. Good boy. Good boy. And then I'm going to ask this horse, since I already know he's okay with the ropes, to give at his nose and to be okay with me touching just under his tail. This is a very vulnerable position for the horse to be in. So he's giving me the tail, he's not clamping down and tensing up, and he's giving his nose without any pressure. And I'll do it again on this side. So I'm going to ask at the tail, just underneath the tail, and you can see he gives the tail, and I'm going to ask for the nose. And I'm just going to stay with him until he settles his feet. Good boy. That's it. Good boy. So I'll let him absorb that for a minute. And then I'm going to ask him to find his way out of a rope, yielding to the pressure and the angle of the rope. So I'm going to let him figure this out. Good boy. Good boy. And that was real nice. So a horse that can't handle that will panic, and they may get a little bit too much anxiety. I would just let go of the rope at that time. I wouldn't demand that they found their way out. I would do a lot more rope work around the body before I would ask them to come out of a move like that. But the fact that he can do this with the rope around his hind end helps him one day. If I were to maybe pony another horse and have the rope wrap around, that's something that that move would be beneficial for. Or if I'm ground driving or pulling a cart where he's going to have ropes at the hind end, that would help as well. And then we can start driving after that. And by driving, I ask for forward movement, but I position myself to the back and side of the horse. And this is just something that I do to get focus with all my horses. And if I have a new horse, I will kind of assess them and their needs just by doing those steps there. Oh.